if you think about the best moments that sighted people have, they usually happen when they have their eyes closed.
Good morning. Welcome to our podcast, The Hummingbird. In this first episode, we will be sharing a little about who we are, what we do, and more um, with our community. And today, I have the honor to be sharing the space with Marco Trujillo, our CEO. Please, Marco, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm glad to be here and share some of my experience with the community, some of the history about Sunu and the beginnings of it. So happy to answer all of your questions.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I believe it's like the most important part and the one that leaves a message after all. What was your inspiration to build Sunu to um, start searching for some kind of answer, let's say in this society?
Okay, right to the neck, Marce. So I would say that personally, I have two inspirations. So the
Mm,
first one is I think that's like a natural passion for creating technology. Like since I was a kid, I was always creating my own toys, like breaking other toys just to build my own ones. Like I don't know, I could spend weeks just crafting something. Um, and that I don't know why, like I was born with that. Ask my mom. Uh, but the second reason why I probably lean towards building assistive technology is because a very close relationship with a cousin. We were basically best friends since childhood. We are both same age. He was born with deafness, so he could hear a word, and that wasn't an impediment for us to have a relationship. I mean, we were kids. I'm talking 4 years old to today. uh, but those at that time, I used to spend like a lot of time with him. I mean, I could stay weeks at his home, uh, living with his family, and that was just a natural thing. We create all sorts of games, inclusive games, of course, because anyone had a chance to win. We
Mm,
play with our brothers and my brothers also, and many friends of the neighborhood. Um, so I didn't never realize that that he had some disability until um, I think we were 13 years old. He wasn't able to get into middle school because
oh.
he couldn't get into school for people that can hear, nor for deaf for the deaf.
Mhm.
So he was in this weird position that he couldn't communicate with anyone. I was
Wow.
the only person he could communicate to because we create our own sign language, um, and even his family wasn't that proficient at communicating with him.
Mhm.
And I mean, sometimes, and this was like quite often, to be honest. Like I used to go just because his mom called me because she wanted me to translate to him what he's wanting to
Wow.
say, and vice versa. Like he always was like, it's because she doesn't understand me, and she want me to he want me to be his translator. Uh, but again, this happened. I get into middle school. My time was more compromised, so I couldn't spend more as much
Of
time as I
course.
spent with him at that time.
Mhm.
And it was 2 years, two very long years that he was attempting to applying to schools. He couldn't get in, and after 2 years, I mean, we he visited me very often, and he always like show how sad he was with the situation, how desperate he was, and of course, I started looking for options because I saw that you know that wasn't gonna work, and
Mhm. Mhm.
that's when I found out that there was a real official sign language. Like
Until then.
until then, I know that was dumb, but
But it
uh,
wasn't.
just
Mm-mm.
I didn't know. I didn't know too much about this, so I found a lesson a course for
Mm-hmm.
learning the official sign language in a
Wow.
church that was near my house. I invited him. I asked his mom, of course, permission.
Yeah.
She granted. We both learned. 6 months later, he was able to get into a school for deaf children.
Wow.
Um, and that really made a change. And I think what impressed me is after he got to school,
Mm-hmm.
he used to take the train, and the train was very close to my house. So after he came back from school, he passed by my house, and he just passed by to tell me he was very grateful with what I did.
Wow.
Going together to the sign language lessons, and I don't know, something broke inside me, like just tears went down, and of course I hugged him and I told him that I was very happy for him
Mm-hmm.
and proud, and that he should never stop like looking for options when it comes to these type of challenges. That there are gonna be plenty of them, and that he can count on me. And I don't know. After that, I that blew my mind in two ways. One is I realize that there are a lot of people in these
Mm-hmm.
circumstances in which
Of course.
uh, you know the world is not as friendly for them as it is for me,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't really mean that they can't do anything. They just need a small push, some help, and they can handle it. Um, so that was the thing. Like you just need a little thing. You just need to do
Exactly.
something very small, and that person is able to do what I can do. And the second thing I realized at that age is the tremendous feelings that you get when you
Mm-hmm.
really when you accompany someone, and you in a way you help him unblock their potential.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Uh, so those two things, like um, changed the way I started to do things. So it was natural for me afterwards to volunteer for many organizations for different types of disabilities. I was amazed learning from different types. Like I started with cerebral palsy,
Mm-hmm.
deafness. I actually
Wow.
ended up in blindness. Uh, that was the very last one I went to. Um, and as I was going through the process, I couldn't help crafting stuff for many of them. So I actually built 7 assistive technology devices. The first ones were interfaces to
Wow.
help uh, people with cerebral palsy to interact with the computer, like to control
Mm-hmm.
the cursor of the computer. Um, Also, some sort of like a platform to enable them to speak. Um, all of these were prototypes, and I was studying college at this time. So I actually built 7. The last one was the Sunu band at a school for the blind in Guadalajara, and so that's pretty much how I started, or what are the beginnings from it, or how does that passion actually got
Wow.
ignited inside me. Mhm.
And that is amazing because when I was listening to you tell this story, it came to my mind how used we are in society not only to see the lack of something, or let's say the disability of someone when it's not a disability at all, as something that's wrong, as something that's not proper, or not into what we expect from others. And it came to my mind like to ask you how or what is your point of view on these situations. For example, blindness, what do you think about it? And I'm actually asking about blindness since our community is especially this one, and we work um, for and with people with blindness. So what do you think about it? Because I myself have like my opinion from it's the other side of the coin. What
Uh-huh.
about you?
So it's a mix of feelings, to be honest.
Awesome. Good.
Because look, on one side, um, the practical thing is, well, it's a sensory impairment,
Mm-hmm.
um, which limits the amount of information the person can access to,
Mm-hmm.
just because they lack this sensor. And unfortunately, is this probably I would say is the most important sensor, but in terms of functionality within the society, it is, because we build a very visual world.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Um,
visual world made for people with sight. You're right.
yes, so if you don't have sight, then that becomes a disadvantage, because many things you can only access them through through sight. So in that sense, that's probably why it is one of the most meaningful sensory impairments compared to others. Like if you lose probably touch or movement, I mean, you still have some, let's say, disadvantages, but I think the gap is not as broad as it is with blindness, unfortunately. So that's one thing. There's
Okay.
certain
Yeah.
things that's that. Then the other thing is, that doesn't really mean that people can't overcome these situations. What I found so far, I mean, my experience working years with this community is that there's a lot that is not discovered yet
Yes.
about this disability, the specific, like the way we are cultivating newer generations of people who are blind. It's it's far from being the best.
Yes.
Uh, I think that, and this is no one's fault. Like no one
Mm-mm.
knows how to raise a child who's blind.
Exactly.
No one has that answer. We have a lot of knowledge these days, but still, like you need to educate a lot of our parents that that is not an easy task,
Mm-mm.
especially if these parents have, a lot of responsibilities, and they are dealing with some um, challenges as well.
And
Um,
dealing with the difference itself, it's harder even.
it's harder for them economically, and also in terms of the amount of time they need to spend in taking care, and finding out how to do it well. So that's probably one of the also the other things, like we don't know, or we are not providing the best type of education for. And to give a practical example, getting here into the O&M space probably, but
Yeah.
it's very natural that many kids, when they are super young, I mean children, uh,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
they are shouting and making noise all the time, if they are blind, because that's a way they interact with their surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
But parents don't know this, and
Mm-hmm.
they, unfortunately, they shut many of them. Uh, they they shut the kid off. Like they don't want him to make a
Exactly.
lot of noise,
To
because
keep quiet
yeah, they ask him to keep quiet,
and to
or
not
force him
even
to be
move.
quiet, and not move. But what
Mm-hmm.
they are not getting is that they are actually doing what a sight kid does when they are, like, all the time looking all around. uh,
Exactly.
it's exactly the same, just the way they interact with their surroundings is totally different. And if they don't have this experience early on, when they are tiny sponges, it's harder for them later on to develop these orientation skills, echolocation skills naturally. It'll take more effort. Um, so this is just a practical example of some of the things, but there are many of them. And then that's that's challenge on racing, and then living with blindness. I think we still have a lot of things to overcome, in the sense that
Yes.
right now, about 90% of people who are living with blindness are unemployed. So it's hard to get a job, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to move around. it's hard to be independent. Like if you are born blind, you just need to realize that you are born for the hard way. You have to do
Yes.
things the hard way. That's the only way.
You have to make your way through, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the easy path, you're right.
Now,
And
life
this
is a decent
doesn't
framework.
necessarily is wrong doing the hard thing.
It's not wrong. It just
Hmm.
requires you to be courage.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, a little bit more than anyone, and that's feasible. That's totally feasible. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's just gonna be harder, and I think it's really just that. Um, um, let me.
It just takes more bravery as well. You're right, like in this part of being born or at the end just leaving or going around the world with blindness. Somehow uh, you gotta be strong, you gotta keep it up, you gotta sometimes do the extra mile to get to where you want to go, and that is all right. Like we all do an extra mile in some kind of way. Even if I believe people who have sight, actually they may have their extra mile in some way.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone
Mhm.
needs to. I mean, this is what life is for. I mean, it's not a vacation time, you know.
Nobody said it was easy.
Nobody says it was easy. Like everyone is now facing a pandemic, for example, the entire
Hmm.
world crash, economics, companies, many people being unemployed. Like it's not easy. It's just it's not easier for you guys. I mean, that's the only point, but it's not easy at all, and you need to find your way out. And things like understand that. I mean, never look someone down, never look someone up. Like having too many challenges early on can be at a certain or for certain people kind of traumatic in the sense
Yes.
that they don't feel uh, to be worthy or to be enough of worthy of a good work employment or relationships. Like sometimes the barrier, what I've seen is more inside than the outside. I mean, the outside is real, but the inside you control it totally. And I think
Totally.
that's the challenge
That is.
for people living with disabilities in general. Like if there's one thing they must master during this life experience is that understanding their worth doesn't is not correlated with the outside
Mm-mm.
way that society works. That's just the way we arrange things, and it's not the best way. It's just full of
That's the
mistakes.
easy way, exactly. Like to believe we all have to be or normal or complete. Who's complete in this world? If there's a human out there who's complete at 100%, well, I don't know that person. And come around and be welcome to get here, because there's no one who has all the abilities, all the right senses, uh, like perfect. There's no perfection whatsoever.
Yes, I mean we're just drop here. We all try to make the best out of it. We don't even know why or where we're heading. Like
Exactly. It's the
that's
moment.
it's the adventure. Like Helen Keller said that, right? Life is either a daring adventure or nothing.
Nothing at all.
And and she said daring, which I really like
It's
that
a
word.
strong word that has a lot of meaning as well.
Because yeah, daring, be daring is about being brave again. This
Mm-hmm.
word comes up again. Uh, and brave um, is about, and this is when people need to take care. It's not about being numb. It's not about
Mm-mm.
wearing an armor.
No.
Because armors probably make you look brave, but it's actually the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you are not being brave if you are numb. If you are not facing fear, then there's no point of being brave. You can only be brave when you are facing a fear, right?
Yes,
Um, so so that's the thing. Like you just really have to face it. You just have to swallow that and go through. And just keep yourself straight. Honor your principles. Honor yourself. Never look down or look up on
mm,
someone.
exactly,
Uh, be aware of your worth, and after all, be grateful, because even if this adventure is slightly more challengeful, more challenging, it doesn't mean it's still an amazing adventure to be alive and to build these relationships, to have a potential and make try to make it happen.
exactly.
um,
And I was asking all this like, what do you think about blindness and everything? Because from my side, at least, like being a person living with blindness, which I actually find it as something good. Actually, I think there are many advantages of the lack of sight. People always look at me like, what are you talking about?" But yes, I I actually appreciate the lack of sight. It allows you to
Interesting.
get the to know the world in a better way, like inside out instead of outside in. And you,
Cool.
yes, and actually I always give this example on people like usually we tend to judge people on their looks, how they behave, how they're dressed. And in, for example, in my situation, because I am speaking just as one blind person, not for the whole community,
Yeah.
but I believe that the lack of sight has given me the chance to get to know the person for who they are, for what they have to say, for what you think about whatever we may be facing, instead of what you're wearing and how you look. It's amazing, like to jump just right into the person instead of their looks, and missing out on amazing people just because you thought they weren't good enough.
Hmm.
And you were mentioning this part of how hard it may be for a person living with blindness, like all this part of the jobs, uh,
Yeah, society
going through
related
life,
stuff.
yeah, society itself, yes. And
Hmm.
part of my question was because of this, because I believe Sunu and mostly, well you, because at the end you're behind all this, you're behind this hummingbird that stands for the what we are. um but really finding a place to work and to be able to not only let's leave work like a little aside, because it's not only to work and to have money. This is something very material, but at the end I also um, thought about it when you were mentioning this part of knowing your worth. And I believe that as a person living with blindness, you gotta find and you have to make your way through for people to get to know what you're worth, like what lies behind your disability. I'm going to call it disability because
Hmm.
that's how society knows about it. And like what lies behind this blindness. And I believe that this is in a lot of ways amazing, because at the end, Sunu, I have thought of it before even being in this team, and when I was just a user, that the message is always to make people feel able. Sometimes we happen to go through, or we happen to face situations, places, people who reminds us of how disabled we can be if you are not like, I like to call that society was made for people like circles, and we with some kind of lack of, I don't know, sense, whatever, whatever you may be lacking of, are squares, in society like circles. And it's a, you were saying it's a visual world, it's a circle society. So being in finding a place that makes you feel able, makes you feel that you can do things, that you can show others your worth or show others how capable of whatever you are, is amazing. Because at the end, as I was just saying, it's very easy out there to feel disabled. It's very easy to feel
Yeah.
excluded, and it sounds maybe hard when you listen to it, but maybe it's like uh, about the time that people listen to it and do something about it. Like, let's just go and respect more, like more than what we already do, and also to allow ourselves, instead of assuming people with, for example, blindness can't do things, it's better to ask, I believe. It's better to have a question, even if sometimes it's very hard for people to ask. But I
Mhm.
think when we ask, we learn, and we allow others to show who they really are, instead of what we think or what we expect them to be.
Yeah, I mean, many ideas came up,
Awesome.
but I would say that, you know, going over some of the points that you touch. First of all, yeah, definitely living with blindness have advantages. Even with any type of disabilities, have advantages. They are hard to
Exactly.
see, and I probably didn't mention those at the beginning because we probably are more worried for the functional aspect of society than and this is wrong. I mean, we should be just living life as life is granted to us. Um, but that you mentioned, I experienced that myself. The not judging part, I think that's
Hmm.
amazing. I think if this could be a massive experiment for humanity. Like, if humans, let's say, if we all decide to stop seeing for a week, like just close our eyes, fall, get a blindfold or something, our relationship are definitely going to improve.
Agree.
I'm pretty sure about that. I live that. I mean, I live with a blindfold for a week just to try to understand. When I was, in the early days of building the Sunuban, and
Hmm.
I went to a camp uh,
Oh,
with a
like those
group of,
summer camps
yeah,
for.
summer camp.
Oh, okay,
It's
okay.
called it's called Braille Beats. I don't know
Oh,
if they're still running.
I have no
It
idea. I
happens in
believe so.
Michigan,
Hmm.
and I mean, we spent like a week learning mobility lessons, but also like just playing and being kids, singing in the nights.
The adult with kids.
I mean, I was another one in the group. I signed up as as someone who want to attend, not as a staff member or something. Like, I just really
Oh,
want to
as a
learn the experience
participant.
as a participant.
Oh,
Uh, and they actually let me in. uh,
awesome.
so I explained, of course, what I was doing, why I wanted to experience this, and they allowed me to attend. And I met Daniel Kish here, by the way, because he was giving all
Oh,
his
it was
mobility
there.
lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I learned a lot about echolocation, about orientation mobility, and all of that. But what really was more impressive to me about the
Hmm.
entire experience is the moment when I took my blindfold off. that
Wow.
that moment
Wow.
was like, I couldn't believe how different, how sight changed your reality dramatically. Because
Yes.
along that week, I have been building a bond with the kids, with the staff, um,
But you hadn't seen
with
them ever, right? I
yeah, with the
understand you came in
instructors.
with the blindfold already.
I didn't came in with the blindfold. Like, I saw him first time, but then I put my blindfold right
That was
away,
the
and
moment
I
you
forgot
stopped
about
seeing.
their faces for a week or so.
Wow.
And when I took it off, like, just something inside me, like, it was in conflict, because
Wow.
I was, I knew these people, but when I was seeing them, I couldn't believe the amount of additional information that was contradictory, contradictive to what I originally believed, because of that week of bonding building.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and overall, you're right. I mean, the site that's pretty much the purpose of site if you think about it. Judging, not in the bad way, but that's the only way you can differentiate things. You
Yes,
have to say, okay, this is black, this is white, this is a person, this is a car. So you need to judge, to differentiate, to understand the differences, and that goes very deep. Like you can,
it is.
how do you differentiate people between each other? But you have to add some distinctives, like okay, this person is mad, this person is happy, this person is good, this person is bad, things like that. So
Exactly.
all that happens in a heartbeat when you see, and you don't even notice that. You don't even know the amount of judgments you're already carrying in your brain just by having that first look.
Mhm.
um, and that never happens if you don't see them. Like you have a more pure bonding with people. So that's very true.
Yeah,
I
it's a different kind of connection, let's say.
that comes me to another thing, which is I think I was talking that society right now is far from providing the best education for
Oh
people who
yeah.
live with disabilities,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
also society is. Uh, I mean, the larger mistake here is not just that; it's just that we are not learning from people who live with this totally different experience. Diversity enriches uh, humanity as a whole, because that gives us the opportunity to understand the different types of experiences, and be smarter, be more compasive in the way we lead our society.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things we could learn from people with disabilities and for people who living with blindness. This is one important thing. Just close your eyes, and if you think about the best moments that sighted people have, they usually happen when they have their eyes closed. Like
The best things happen, exactly. Good one.
if you're like eating a delicious meal, just close your eyes and eat that delicious meal. It will be different. It will taste differently. If you are,
Yes,
of course, kissing
as
your love
well.
partner, like just close your eyes. Why are you saying like it's gonna get better? I have to confess, one of the things I do, I always take a shower when I take many showers a day. That's kind of weird, but the
Let's
interesting
not
thing,
go into depth with how many times, but
well, not that many. It's I mean, it can be at least two,
at least 10, but that is all right.
but yeah, depending how's the weather.
Uh-huh.
But in the nights, I like to take a shower with with the lights off. Uh,
Wow.
and I try to keep the I try to be totally blind, like seeing nothing, and the experience is totally different.
It is.
Um, I always do this. Just really enjoy not seeing when I'm taking a shower. If you take a massage, mess,
Mm-hmm.
how do you, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, like you don't have to see to do that. So
Mm-mm.
it's if you take all these in considerations, if you don't see, your capacity to appreciate life increases.
Exactly.
Uh,
Because
so
you
that's
you don't
uh,
judge what you're doing.
yeah, you just don't carry too much information because then your brain starts to processing a lot of things.
To question
Otherwise,
yourself even, right? Like, what am I doing? Am I doing it right?
yeah,
How am I
I mean,
looking?
you can even do stupid things like that. Yeah, like
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. It can be counterproductive in many senses, in many ways. Like when you are speaking to public, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I never look at a public when I get started. Like it's better not seeing, in my opinion, because you're
Yeah.
just with yourself. But if you are seeing, then there's a lot of people around you, and
They
then you
say it
have
can be very frightening to be looking at the people. I have no idea, but yes, they say.
and an interesting just thing that I read recently. There's certain sadhanas, and sadhanas are like this practice that people who want to be who are spiritual seekers in in India, in the eastern part of the world.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Uh, they do these like intensive practices to enlighten themselves. And one of these practices, not sing for a long period of time. There's also
Oh.
another one for not talking, not saying
Oh.
a word for a very long period of time. I'm talking like months of
Silence.
or years, silence. So silence again. I mean, this is for people who other type, but that's the thing. Like we are not appreciating, uh, you know, the knowledge and the experience that people who are living with any disability can contribute to society. We are
Exactly.
immediately rejecting them, like
Mm-hmm.
tagging them as this
That's the first
terrible word,
reaction. You're right.
which is disabled.
Mm-hmm.
That's attack. That's the consideration, and this is how sad is our community right now. For example, Mexican cultures in the past, not all of them, of course, because there
Mm-hmm.
were plenty
Well,
of
because yeah, they
civilizations,
have a lot of uh, culture.
but I can't remember if it was the Mayas or the Aztecs. But whenever they have a person in their community with a disability, they have them in a sacred space.
Mm.
Uh, they weren't like the weirdos of the community. They were
Yeah.
like the divine people from the community. Uh, I wish I can understand why, because these civilizations tend to be very wise. They were
Yeah.
closer to nature. They understand humanity and their connection to nature in a different way that we do. Right now, we're very separated, like very far away. We are destroying nature, and now we're paying many consequences because of that.
Yes.
And we need to, head towards nature again, because
And
I mean
stop
we're
segregating people. You're right. Like, stop being the weirdos. Stop being like all this that has
yeah
been, I don't know, imagined, created, who knows? But so the contrary of what you were saying about the cultures.
yeah and that's another thing we need to change. So that would be another thing. Like, don't think that or people with disability. That's why I came to the know your worth, because
Mm.
um, that experience is worthy of life. I mean, you have life. Life is pretty much the the most significant thing. Is before anything. Like,
Exactly.
you can't be happy if you don't have a life. You can't be rich if you don't have a life. You can't have a partner if you don't have a life. And like, we never talk about life. It's just the single most important thing. And if you
Exactly.
have it,
We take it for granted.
we take it for granted. But once you have it, like, you have this tremendous opportunity of being whoever you want. Of course, with the challenges that come with society and whatever. But you still have a potential you can achieve. And I think that's the whole point of it. In terms of life, like, I'd say, yes, try to blossom, flourish that potential that you have. Work hard to make it happen. Work smart to make it happen. But also enjoy life deeply, because it's gonna go away at some point, and we know
It's just once, and
that.
it's very singular for each one of us.
So at least those two things, it would be great to achieve them, right? Like, one is to try to drive that potential and make it happen, flourish in the best expression you can be. And on the other hand, just enjoy it deeply. Have those feelings, because even if those feelings are hard sometimes, are strong, but just having a very deeply emotional life is important,
It is
because
very moving.
mhm.
And yes, I am. Uh, I agree with a lot of things that you were saying, and actually, that was, I think I achieved my goal for this podcast, because what I wanted in some way was to share just a bit, because we could keep talking for hours, I
I know.
bet.
Yeah, we
But
could.
people are going to be, what? This is 5 hours long. But so we have to start cutting up. But actually, what I wanted was just to share with our community, share with people who don't know us yet, share with those parents who have
Uh-huh.
kids living with blindness, that there is the possibility not only of yourself, your kid, whoever you're listening uh, this with for, or if it's you, there is a possibility of going out there, and the most important part, that you're not going to be judged by everyone. This is what I wanted to break in some way, because there are people with sight, people with uh, perfect hearing, people who are not going to judge you, who see disability without the DIS. It's just an ability. And actually, what it's very important, not only for this podcast, but I think for Sunu, is to let people know who stands behind this. Like, you created this because you believe in some way. That's how I see it. That's how uh, I've always felt with Sunu. Not the device only, but the brand, what it is,
Yeah,
whatever we a whole. That this was created not just because, oh, this is cool, this is amazing. No, it has a lot of meaning behind, and it is amazing to be sharing, like, not only with you, but with what you have to say. And and really, thank you for sharing a lot of what you know, what you believe, with our community. And I think we have to do a second one on this one, because people people need to know that there is something different, really, that there is a possibility of others seeing how worthy you are, or how capable you are, without having to reject you because of the lack of sight in my situation,
yeah,
whatever, for others. But yeah, it is amazing, actually, to be taken into account, because you can show uh, someone what I can do and you can't. For example,
yeah,
I learn a lot from you, and I learn a lot of what you do, and what you do with the site that you have. It's amazing how you use it. Let's not say when you don't use your site, you do more amazing things. But
yeah,
also, I have had the great opportunity to not only be taken into account, but to show, for example, my team in this situation, what blindness has to say for others. So thank you,
yeah.
Marco. Really, thank you for the space, and thank you for what you do. And thank you for sharing with the community. It's very moving. It's very amazing, and really, it was very important for me to allow not only our community, but those who are not part of our community yet, to
Uh-huh.
listen to what you have to say, to who, just a little of who this amazing person is. And it's that was the point of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcy. I wasn't expecting this.
Oh.